Raiders Unleashed on the screen. Hit that subscribe. It's the RaidersRebel in the building. Silver and black, 2026. Yeah. Welcome to the desert. You know what time it is. Raiders Unleashed on the screen. Hit that subscribe. It's the RaidersRebel in the building. Silver and black, 2026. Let's go!
Left the bay for the lights, now we lighting up the strip. A legion in the desert, yeah, we built a mothership. No more dirt on the diamond, no more Coliseum rain. Just a blacked out dome where we deal out the pain. We're the villains of the league, always been the outcast. Built on Al Davis' ghost and we're built to outlast. The torch is still burning, it's a lifestyle of creed. In the city of sin, we're the only ones you need. Silver and black is back, check the throne. The Raiders got a new home in the dome. The nation is rising, we're coming for everyone. Forget the other 31, we're the only ones. Yeah, we're unleashed. Rebel with the vision, Raider nation worldwide. Making that precision, one mission, one pride. Until the game is won, fuck the other 31. We're second to none. Check the box office, yeah, the leadership is changing. Tom Brady in the office, things are rearranging. The GOAT is a minority owner, that's a fact. Bringing that winning DNA, no turning back. From the field to the booth, now he's part of the shield. Watching from the suite while we're dominant on the field. The rebels on the mic, Raiders Unleashed on the tube. Giving you the raw truth, we don't move like a rube. I'm a rebel with a cause, and the cause is the win. Blacking out the sun, let the nightmare begin. Chiefs, boats, and the ponies, they can all catch a fade. They're just stepping stones for the history we made. From the pirate on the helmet to the patch on the eye. We're the heartbeat of Vegas under that desert sky. Turn the volume up high, let the channel go live. In the Raider Nation, only the strongest survive. Silver and black is back, check the throne. The Raiders got a new home in the dome. The nation is rising, we're coming for everyone. Forget the other 31, we're the only ones. Yeah, we're unleashed. Rebel with the vision, Raider Nation worldwide. Making that precision, one mission, one pride. Until the game is won, fuck the other 31. We're second to none. You hear the RAIDERS chant. They thought we'd go soft in the desert, they can't. We brought the autumn wind to the 702. The rebel and unleashed, coming straight for you. Raiders Unleashed, you know where to find us. RaidersRebel, keeping it 100. Vegas is ours, the dome is ours. Your shield is forever. Sound of a sword clashing, fade to silence.
Yo, 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 what's good, Nation Militia? Shout out to everyone in the building. Raider Paul, I see you. Faded Raider, I see you. Whew, damn. What's good, man? What's good? How's everybody doing on this wonderful, wonderful Sunday? We're going to break down some wide receivers. Not top 10, not top 15. Well, it says top 15, but there's probably a little bit more than that. I think this wide receiver class is a little bit deeper than people think. I think there's a lot of wide receivers that could help some teams in the NFL, and a lot of them possibly in the first 100 picks. So we'll get into that. We'll break everything down. The song is sick. Appreciate it. But yeah, man, so that's what we got. We got a whole bunch of wide receivers we're going to break down. Well, first, let's break down the list of all the wide receivers that have been invited to the combine. All right, man. So here's the list we got. What the hell? I can't control the list. Where's it at? All right, this one. All right, man. So here's the list we got. Make sure it's all. We got wide receivers. There's a lot, man. There's a lot. We're not going to break them all down. But Chris Bell, a guy coming off an injury. Some people have in the top 10. Some people have just out of the top 10. Some people have him in the top 5. It just depends on, I guess, your flavor of receivers. But coming off that injury, man, to me, I don't know. Um, excuse me, damn. Jeremy Bernard, Alabama receiver. Again, some people have them top 15. Some people have them in the top 10. Some people just have them right out of their top 15. Depends on where you go. Denzel Boston, I've heard of first round. I've heard him. Some say he's the third or fourth best receiver in this draft class. We'll get into that where I have him ranked. Chris Brazil is another. Brazel is another guy. Tennessee, big tall guy, 6'5", can stretch the field. I think he's pretty decent at running routes. I think he's a guy that could be a problem in the NFL. And then Casey Concepcion, some people have him 5, some people have him 10, some people have him just out of the top 10. Find out where I got him. I think this kid is he's gonna be one of them ones, I think, at the next level, man. I think with his size, if he packs on a little bit more pounds, I think he's gonna be a problem. And then as y'all seen on the cover, Omar Cooper, where do we have Omar Cooper ranked? Some people still got him going in the second round. I don't see how he falls to the second round. I really don't. So stay tuned. We'll break that down. Guys like Malachi Fields, excuse me, Ted Hurst, a sleeper that, a lot of people are starting to talk about. I watched a little bit of tape at North Dakota State on the quarterback, right? But this guy, Bryce Lance, brother of Trey Lance, taken first, in the first round. A lot of people said you probably shouldn't take him with a little bit of snaps that he had in college ranks, but he went first round. He's bounced around. It looks like he's now found him a home over there in LA. But the brother, Bryce Lance, I think he's got decent speed. He's got decent size. He's got a lot to prove coming from North Dakota State. But we'll see what he does in the combine. I really want to see how he does in the drills, what his hands are. If he's got, quick hands, if you can wait till the last second to put those hands up to try to catch a ball, it makes all the difference in the world, right? So guys like Denzel Boston have those late hands where you could just wait till the last second and he's able to just, put his hands up out of nowhere. It's like those little toys back in the day where you flip the back and the arms go up. Yeah, quickness like that. So, but yeah, man, we're gonna break all these down. Who else we got in here that needs to be talked about? Guys like Jacoby Lane, of course, Makai Lemon, we all know, Elijah Surratt. I mean, there's a lot of guys. So there's a whole bunch of receivers, some names you probably don't know. One of my favorites that's been growing on me, just watching these Iowa offensive linemen. This kid just stands out, and it's Caden Wedgen. I don't know how you say it. But man, definitely want to see what he does. But let me know, who your guys are, who your tops are. Go back to my screen here. But let me know who you guys are, who you have in your tops, who you have in the middle. I'm going to cough to death over here. I think I need to take a drink. Looking forward to the combine this coming weekend. Yeah, I'm definitely looking for the combine. And, I'm looking at these receivers and I'm looking at my list because, I'm old school. It's on paper. It's written down, a little bit of notes here and there. But I'm looking at this list and I'm trying to go through these guys and find, whatever tape I can, because, I don't have access to everything. Can only get what I can get. on the all 22, but there's some guys that you can't really find tape on, right? Or it's very, very hard unless you know somebody. So some of these guys, not a lot of tape on, but just from what I've seen, what I've watched, the games that I watched over the year, looking at some of the guys from last year and transferring to teams and finally getting their shot to get more targets, I think makes a difference. But let's just break on Devaney Tees. What's good? What's good? Hey, how you doing? Rick Diaz, I got you right. What's good? Appreciate you. But yeah, man. So let's just start with guys that not fully done, but guys that I really are on the edge of breaking into that top 15. um, Guys like Cyrus Allen. Hold on, where's my other notes? I have notes on here also as well. Oh my god, I think I'm gonna cough my ass off. Hold on, 1, 2, 3, 6, 7. Yeah, I think that's where we're at. Jeez, Louise. Somebody help me, please. All right, man. I'm gonna stop coughing in a second. The video was way too long at the beginning. But guys like Cyrus Allen, right? The guy that played at Cincinnati, you know, not the greatest. Not the greatest this year. They had, I think, their team was, a disappointment. I guess you could say. A lot of people had them, ranked better. They got a lot of great players. They just had issues. They had issues like, I don't know, with the offensive line, with the quarterback. Um, but 5'11", 180 is a guy that could pretty much do it all. Right? He had 8 missed tackles forced, 9 deep catches, 10 catches on the screen, 43 slot catches, 1 contested catch, deep yardage. He was 65th with 356 yards, had 28 screen yards, had 620 yards in the slot. That's 53rd in the country out of, you've seen the list of how many guys got invited to the combine. So, I think, what does it say? Out of 300, tied for 340th. So that just tells you how many receivers are actually in college football, right? But decent numbers. Looking at the big games like Utah, he was a 72.2. Nebraska, a 70. Who else did they play? Kansas Jayhawks, UCF. So against some decent corners, decent corners. Should I put this on the screen and show everybody? Probably. And then you got guys like, here, let me just show this. I think that's better. Show this. All right, much better. So, Cyrus Allen, I can't control this. Hold on. I'm getting to it. All right. Like I said, 5'11", 180. Then you got guys that are very underrated that nobody's really talking about. Like, I subscribe to some people's emails list. Um, watch a lot of stuff, and I just don't really see a lot of people talking about Dejon Sterling, a guy that played for Ole Miss. I mean, they made it to the Final Four, right? 6'2", 210 pounds. I think he's very, very underrated. Profile. Contested catch rate 44.4. Yards per route 215. Not the greatest. Receiving grade is 78.8. Drop rate 1.8. Grade in man coverage 69. You're gonna have to work on route running, creating separation, right? Getting these guys to turn their hips, because I mean he's a big dude. So missed tackles forced 12, deep catches 5, screen catches 5, solo catches 11, slot yards 192. Not a lot of production, not a lot of production. But again, when I turn on tape, I'm like, man, why weren't they throwing to this guy more? Like, it doesn't make sense. And I know they were, a run team, a defensive team. They put up numbers with Chambers. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense to me. And then you got guys from Mississippi State like Brennan Thompson, 5'9", 170. Another one of those guys that, average route run 2.77. That's not bad. Contested catch rate. He's not a big guy, so got to work on that. But a receiving grade 79.9, drop rate 8.1. That's again part of that contested catch rate. I think those two side by side for a reason to go together. But graded man coverage 76.8. I mean, that's decent. I mean, that's up there, right? Deep catches 11, tied for 38th. Screen catches only 3. So a lot on the outside, it looks like. Slot yards 91. Deep yards 478. Average depth of target 18.4. Sixth. That's pretty damn good. That's pretty damn good. I remember he had a decent game against my Razorbacks, one that stands out. So, it's kind of hard, man. It's kind of hard looking at these guys. A lot of people are like, it's not a deep wide receiver class. It's not a deep, this class. It's not a deep O-line class. It's not a deep guard class. But the more I watch film on these guys, I don't know if it's just because there's, only one quarterback in the first round. Maybe 4 receivers in the first, maybe 5 or 6 or 7. I mean, it just depends on how they go looking at this class, right? Depending on what people want. If people think that the receivers higher, they might jump on them. If you look at the offensive tackles, if you look at the guards, the deepest class I think is, defensive line, defensive tackle, edge. Corners are pretty deep. Safeties, corners, safeties, I think, are deeper than some people think. So I don't know if it's just the grades that I'm giving some of these guys that make it look like there's a better wide receiver class, but the film stands out. The film stands out for a lot of these guys to me. Eric McAllister from TCU is another one of those guys. 6'3", 205. 2.6 yards per route run. Contested catch rate wasn't great. Man coverage great wasn't great. Great drop rate 7.8. Right. I think a lot of those things need to change. At 6'3", 205, you got to be winning more contested catches, in my opinion. Right. But a guy that could do it all too, right? Deep yards, 333, 78th in the country. Slot yards, 214. slot catches, 19 contested catches, 11 screen catches, 16 deep catches, 10 missed tackles forced. This is the big number, 27. 27 missed tackles forced. So a guy that, when you have those numbers, missed tackles forced, there's a lot of people that are going to look at this guy and be like, how is he not going in the top 100? Right? That's what, 3 rounds? I don't know. Let me know what y'all think. If y'all have any favorites, guys like Jacoby Lane could also sneak up in there. But let's go from here. I think the top 15 PFF is Cyrus Allen, Antonio Williams. We're gonna get to him. Deion Burks. Where does he go? As you've seen the cover, big question. I have him a lot higher than a lot of people. This is a dude that, you know, I watched a lot of Oklahoma games, trying to, look at Mateer, and he just stands out. He just stands out for his size. I don't know what his contested rate. We'll get to that, but Chris Brazzell, we talked about that. Malachi Fields is one of my favorite receivers in this draft. For some reason, him and Denzel Boston just stand out. Skylar Bell. I can't even talk or read. Skylar Bell is another one of those guys at 6', 185 that could pretty much do it all, right? I think he runs decent routes. He's got good hands, good separation. We'll see. Zachariah Branch is another guy that he's rated 76. I mean, what's second round? CJ Daniels, second round. Elijah Surratt, second round or third round. Elijah Surratt. Jeremy Bernard. We'll get into that. We'll get into his comps in a minute. Omar Cooper. What do they have, Chris? 41th or 41st? 41th. Is that even a word? Chris Bell, 37. Again, coming off that injury, ACL makes a big, big difference. We've seen what it does to quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers, others that have, torn ACLs. Kirk Cousins, right? They're not the same the following year. Hopefully, speedy recovery. KC Concepcion is a big question. Where does he go? They have him 28th, and that's the first round. Denzel Boston, first round. Jordan Tyson, first round. Malachi Lemon and Cardinal Tate. So that's where they have theirs. KC Concepcion, man. Did we already look at his numbers? I think we did. No, 2.46 average route run, 66.7 contested catch, drop rate though, 10.3. That's huge. That's I mean, definitely have to work on that. And hopefully before the combine, he'll work on that. That's why I want to see, a lot of folks say that when it comes to the combine, doesn't really mean a lot for the receivers, other than the speed test. I disagree. I like, when they're running full speed and you got balls flying at you every 5 seconds and they got to turn and, focus on the ball. To me, it shows hand-eye coordination, how fast they run those gauntlet routes, right? I like all those drills. And some of those drills change my mind on some receivers for the good and for the bad. All right, so another fun one that I said I wanted to get into, and let's just get into this list real quick. So yeah, man, I got guys that I just don't know where to put them, right? Just don't know where to put them. Ted Hurst, is he top 15? There's a good conversation and a good debate there. Where do y'all feel he is, right? Um, then Thompson, we talked about him. Where do y'all think he is? Another guy from SMU is Jordan Hudson. This is another guy that, man, I think he should be a lot higher than where he is. But again, that's just me. Zachariah Branch, another one. CJ Daniels. We talked about Bryce Lance. But Deion Burks, man. Deion Burks out of Oklahoma. I thought was one of those guys that could pretty much do everything. And his numbers are 5'9", 188. Pretty solid, not the biggest guy. Average route ran is 1.45, which is, you know, yeah, you know. But I think some of these numbers are deceiving. Uh Drop rate 4.9, you can't deceive that, right? Man coverage 67.7. Not a whole lot of targets. 14 catches, screen catches, slot catches 13, contested catches 9, slot yards 80, screen yards 107 on 14 catches. Um, Deep catches 2 for 62 yards. Was he hurt? they just not throwing the ball? I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me, man. But um, I got Brendan Thomas, CJ Allen. We got. No, we didn't. 4.2 contested catch rate, 20%. Got to work on that. That's got to be better in the NFL. But if you look at the numbers, he had 8 missed tackles forced, average depth of target 10.8, deep catches 9 for 356 yards, 10 screen catches for only 28 yards, 43 targets in the slot for 620 yards. Didn't he run back? I think he ran back a kick return. Um, but I got, man. So I got in my top 10 is actually, we're just going to go, yeah, we'll go top 10. So I had, like I said, just out was guys like Deion Burks, Ted Hurst. I think, I just don't know how Deion Burks was used at Oklahoma, um, if it was right. So Thompson, Zachariah Branch, and Skylar Bell out of UConn. Skylar Bell is one of those guys that at 6 foot 185, I was impressed as hell. I don't know. I guess I'll look it up here in a second where they have him ranked. I think it's in the hundreds, just outside of the 100. But man, he had some games, bro. He had some games. 3.13 yards per route ran, 65% contested catch rate. Receiving grade was an 85.1. He had 3.8% drops. Grade versus man coverage was an 81. You're going to get a lot of man in the NFL. You're going to have to be able to create separation. Like I said, get these guys to, you know, turn their hips, which you're going to have to stick to your route and be sharp on your cuts, right? He had 4 drops. Yards after the catch was 8.2, 28th. He had 15 missed tackles forced. Average depth of target was 8.3. 6 catches, deep catches for 170 yards, had 38 screen catches for 257 yards, had 45 catches in the slot for 479, and 13 contested catches. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. He had um, a 75.7, a 72.3 against Duke, 82.2. Whoever the hell that is. I guess not a lot of competition. But still, one of those guys, man, that I think, I don't know what his speed is. I have no idea what is projected. But just looking at his, contested catches, the catches that he makes, I think this guy, Skylar Bell, they got him ranked 79. So third, late third round, fourth round. I can't count. I can't count. Late fourth round. You know, there's a lot of sleepers. So if I'm looking at the Raiders, man, I'm looking at guys like, you know, Antonio Williams, Malachi Fields, because I think these other guys are all going to be gone. So my top 10 is Elijah Surratt. Yes, I have Elijah Surratt in the top 10. Just watching this film, and I don't, with all the talk that Fernando Mendoza isn't this great quarterback, some have him, Peyton Manning and Joe Burrow style. Some I could see some aspects, right? I can see some aspects better athleticism than one, maybe not as good, maybe close to the other. Anyways, with the slide on the quarterback, some people are saying, right, he's a robot. He just, first read, throw, second read, throw, right? If the first read's not there, or run. But with that being said, I don't know how you don't have Elijah Surratt at least in the top 15. But me personally, I have him in the 10. At 10, I had Jeremy Bernard, who I think is more of a Raider fit. I mean, let's be honest. I know if you're drafting Fernando Mendoza, Elijah Surratt makes a lot of sense. But if you look at Jeremy Bernard, he's one of those hard hat guys. He reminds me a lot of one of those hard hat guys that we just let go, right? We traded for a fourth round and a sixth round. And Jacoby Myers, one of those guys that he can block. He's physical. He's gonna, catch the ball in short yardage. He's gonna pay attention to your quarterback. He's gonna, move around to help your quarterback out when he's in trouble. He's gonna do all the little things. And for that reason, I think the Raiders might be paying a lot of attention to this man. So I had him, 6 foot 209. I had him at 11. I had Elijah Surratt sliding in there in my top 10. We'll see at the combine. I know he's not going to beat anybody with speed, right? He's not going to run past anybody. But his nickname is Waffle House. And watching the film, he does look like he's always open. I mean, film doesn't lie. You could say a lot of the times, just throw the ball to him. And if he could do that in the NFL, he's going to make a lot of offensive coordinators and quarterbacks very, very, very happy. So I had to put him in there, man. I had to put him in there. I had some jumps around, some ups and downs, some mixed matches. I've moved guys in, I've moved guys out, and I'm not done. It's going to change, I'm sure, after the combine. And I see, these guys with their speeds, see their RAS scores. I think all that makes a difference, right? Your high jump, your hip shows your explosiveness, right? All these things are little telling signs that, to me, makes a lot of difference. And some guys thinks it do, some guys thinks it, it doesn't. But but speed, being able to get in and out of your breaks, being able to cut, right, being able to have those, ankles kind of like a defensive edge where you can get, do crazy things with your ankles, right, and not be hurt. I think those guys are, the best receivers, guys that can get in and out of their breaks, guys that um, can force guys to backpedal and have to turn their hips because they can only backpedal so far, right, before they have to make a decision. I think guys that can put pressure on DBs and man, guys that can find the zone, find the open hole in the zone, I think make a difference. And I think Elijah Surratt is just one of those guys. Then I have Antonio Williams out of Clemson. I think this man just a lot just stood out. His size not the greatest at 5'11". They have him in the fourth round. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I think he's that. I guess not anymore. Not nowadays. You're not the prototypical height at 5'11", 190. But again, looking at his profile, 46%, catch rate, almost a 80 receiving grade. A guy that had 49 catches in the slot for 594 yards. Deep catches, 181 yards on 5 catches. So if you do throw the ball to him, it looks like he can do that as well. What other numbers do we got? He had 100 targets last year. He only had 72 this year. Last year he had 908 yards. This year he had 611. A better grade this year than he had last year. Last year he had slot snaps about the same. Last year he had 188. And I knew something was off. I was like, what? Why didn't? So last year, wideout snaps, he had 188 compared to 19 this year. That's the difference. Some of the film I was watching, I don't know if I had the date on it, which makes a big difference because I was like, man, I know this dude played outside more than what they're showing. So a guy that I think is going to surprise some people in the combine, just my opinion. Then, man, I don't know. It was very, very, very hard to decide whether or not a guy like Malachi Fields to be deserves to be in the top 10. And a lot of people are going to say no. But I have to disagree. I have to disagree. I think this man at 6'4", 222, he's physical. He wins, at the point of attack. He has 47.8 contested catch rate. Most of his catches were, downset hike and throw him the ball and let him work after the catch. So not a whole lot to see, not a whole lot to see. He had 309 snaps this year. 2023, he had 461 for 811 yards. Last 2024, he had 431 for 808 yards with 5 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns every year. Games played the same amount. Targets, and he had 100 targets in 2023, 94, and only 62 this year. So a guy that didn't show up a lot of tape, didn't have a lot of production. But if you look at all 3 years together, he's a playmaker, man. He's a playmaker, I believe. Missed tackles for, sixth. Average depth of target was 16.4. 8 catches for 291 yards deep. He had 3 catches for 22 screen yards, 3 slot catches for 36 yards, and 11 contested catches. Showed up big against Texas A&M, not so big against Miami. Who was that? SMU. Okay. Pitt, he had a big game. So, yeah, I snuck him in there. I think he's just going to be a difference maker. Some people got him 85, which would put him at what? 1, 2, you got him at 16. So I could be way off on that. I could be way, way off of Malachi Fields, but I'm not a Notre Dame fan. I just think they have, very, very disciplined players. And this guy, his body, his size, I think just at the next level, it's going to work. Then I have KC Concepcion, man. I have KC Concepcion, Texas A&M, 5'11", 190. I have it number 6. Again, these numbers can change. We talked about his numbers. We talked about, being able to get open, create separation. Contested catches, I think, is the biggest thing. I have him at 6. And then number 5 is the big man from Washington. I wanted to put at number 4, and he probably should be at number 4. But I talked all year about how I thought number 4 was going to be a first-round pick. And a lot of people said it was like he was a 3rd-round pick, he was a 4th-round pick, and then he started climbing, and then he was a 3rd-round pick and a 2nd-round pick, and then he was beginning of the 2nd round. And now a lot of people seem to have this man in the 1st round. And I think I've been saying it since the first Indiana, I guess that kind of gives it away. Since the first Indiana game I watched, which gives that away. But yeah, Concepcion at 5, and then number 4, man. Number 4 is Omar Cooper to me. I just don't see how this guy cannot be in the 1st round. His route running, his separation, his magnet hands that the ball just seems to stick to. I like everything about this man. I think no matter where you want to put him, he's going to make a team very, very happy. I've seen some people saying, possibly the Rams in a Sean McVay system would be frightening. I don't know where he fits. I haven't got that far, but I really like Omar Cooper, man. 6 foot, 204. Coming off a national championship. Why is this doing that? Average route run, 2.55, which is, pretty damn good considering you had Elijah Surratt on the other side. You had Williams. You had a tight end / fullback that caught the ball an awful lot. You had why am I forgetting the white boy's name? Charlie Becker. So not too bad there. 86th grade, 4.2 drop rate, man coverage, 73.6. Have to work on that just a little bit. Has 7 contested catches, 55 slot catches for 789 yards. Had 22 screen catches for 165. Had 8 deep catches for 274. A lot of talk about Fernando Mendoza not being able to throw the ball. That's pretty decent, right? 8 catches, 274. Missed tackle rate, missed tackle forced, 4th in the nation with 27. Average depth of target was 376th with 9.7. Yards after the catch was 58th with 7.2. So the yak yards are there. He had 3 drops. Last year, 2024, I've had this conversation. Go back and watch the videos. Curtis Rourke, Fernando Mendoza, where do they line up? Where do they fit? Was it the same? They had 2 losses in 2020 and 24. They had 0 losses this year. But if you look at the numbers, Cooper played in 13 games in 2024. He played in 16 in 2025. He had passing snaps 247 in 24, 389 in 2025. Slot snaps 24 in 2024, 324 in 2025. Wide snaps in 2024, it was the other way around. He had 223 snaps as that outside guy, right? As that X, whatever you want to call him. 61 this year. Last year, 28 receptions. This year, 69. Last year, 2024, he had 48 targets. This year, he had 91 targets. So a huge, huge difference. Yardage wise, 594 to 937. Yards of reception last in 2024 was 21.2. Of course, he had all those wideout snaps. This year, 13.6, and then touchdowns. He had 7 in 2024 and 13 this year. So a guy that production has went up every single year. If you go back to 2023, he only had 130 snaps, passing 21 in the slot. So he went from 21 to 24 to 324 in the slot. Wide snaps 108, 223 down to 61. So obviously he's a guy that can play anywhere you want to put him. Can he create separation in the NFL? Not everybody has to have that 4-3 speed or that 4-4 speed, right? There's guys like Devontae Adams that never blew by anybody, but it's constantly open, right? There's guys like Armand St. Brown that's not the fastest guy. He's not going to beat anybody, I don't think, in a foot race, but he's going to be open 99% of the time. Just throw him the ball. So there's guys out there that, they can get away with not having all the speed in the world. Raider Knight in the building was good. Appreciate you. But yeah, man, I think, again, a lot of these guys are going to move around, bounce around. These are just the guys who I like, the guys that I think the Raiders, should possibly look at. I don't believe, like I said, any of these guys are going to be around. So if it was me, I would look like, a guy like Skylar Bell, I think would be tops on my list. If I'm the Raiders in a, you know, third round, if you get lucky and some of these guys fall to the fourth, you have to swing for the fences on a lot of these receivers. If they're in the fourth round, we have three fourth round picks, I do believe. So that's going to be huge. And then number three, I have Malachi Lemon, USC 5'11", 190. You've seen the tape, you've seen the games, you've heard all the talks, right? I'm sure everybody's seen all the draft takes and all the projections of where, this man's going to go. I think all three of these guys, if they fall, I mean, if they all end up going in the first 15 picks, which I believe they can. And those three I'm talking about, of course, Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, and Makai Lemon. If those three guys, and you could even throw, I think you could even throw Denzel Boston in there. I think he deserves to be at 4. I just had to mix it up a little bit with KC Concepcion and Omar Cooper. Again, I think, Cooper's one of those guys that I just don't see sliding out of the first round. Somebody's going to take a chance on him. And number 2 is Jordan Tyson, and number 1 is Carnell Tate. I think, the injuries with Jordan Tyson, man, I wouldn't be surprised if he could somehow end up um like Chris Bell and you know possibly drop, right? If the doctors, if everything clears, medical clears, right, and everything's good, he could be the first one off the board. But that's a big if. And a lot of these doctors get it wrong, right? They clear these guys, just to clear them sometimes it feels like, and then they end up, having the same injury in college or not being the same. So I think that makes a big, big difference. So it'd be nice to see, you know, what he does. If some of these guys might not even show up at the combine. I don't have confirmation of who all is actually, going to be there, who's not. We know Fernando's not throwing, so I think that's going to be a big difference for the quarterback room, right? There's a lot of guys that have a chance to stand out. Guys like my Arkansas Razorback, he didn't do it in the Senior Bowl. I think, not to make excuses, but I think the wind hurt all them quarterbacks in that game. It was crazy. It was cold. It was nasty. Some of these guys ain't used to playing that late, right? And in that weather. But, you know, some of them quarterbacks look pretty damn good. So, anyways, I think my guy, Taylor Green has one more opportunity, and it's to show out at the combine and show out at your pro day. But again, when it comes to, passing, decision making, shit like that, you're not going to see at the combine. But his RAS scores should be, you know, pretty damn respectable and have a lot of teams saying, do we draft this guy? Do we take him early? Do we see if he falls to the fifth, sixth, or seventh round, which I don't see him going past 4. I think somebody around that range who already has a quarterback that can let him develop for, 2 years, I think is the best way to go for Taylor Green. So I don't know what y'all got, what y'all thinking. Salute Raiders Unleashed. Raider Night 13 in the building. What's good? Do you think we will make it to the playoffs in the first year with Kubiak? That's asking a lot. That's asking a lot. We have a lot to talk about before, but man, that's there's a possibility. There's a possibility, right? I think there's a lot more of a possibility that we do than we don't. If you look at schedules, if you look at other team schedules, right? The Broncos should have a tougher schedule. The Chargers should have a tougher schedule. Kansas City may or may not have Patrick Mahomes back for, the start of the season. Could have to go somewhere else for, first couple games. There's a lot. There's a lot. We have a lot of coaches that are out of place. And we'll talk about that more, but I like what they're doing with the youth when it comes to the coaching staff. But there's so many guys that they got coaching the D line that were running back coaches. They got guys that were defensive line coaches coaching the offensive line and run game coordinator. They got guys that were defensive back coaches on the offensive side of the ball. They got guys everywhere at a position, and I hope they have a plan. I hope it works out. I have a feeling it will. But it all comes down to coaching, man. It all comes down to coaching. I think the last 2 years we've had a team that definitely could have been way more competitive than we were. I think we had a team that were in a lot of close games. The close games that we were in, we fell apart in the third and fourth quarter. So it's hard to say, man. It's hard to say. We got a long way to go. We don't know who we're drafting. We don't know what we're going to do in free agency. Are they going to swing for the big fish like Tyler Lindenbaum? Are they going to go out and get a number 1 receiver in free agency? Do they swing for offenses like a guy like Mike Williams, which I believe, looking at a guy that's had 1,000 yards every season, just seems like the way to go, right? So will he come to the Raiders? How good is he? How close is he with Spy Tech? Can you convince him? A guy that's on the end of his career to come to a rebuild? Probably not. Doesn't really make sense if you look at it that way. But I think it would make sense for the young guys in the building if they could convince him to. We need to bring in some guys, and it's not a lot. We need to bring in a couple guys here, a couple guys there, some veterans, some younger guys. I think we need to get faster on defense in a lot of positions like edge, like D tackle, linebacker, safety. It's a lot. It's a lot. So, it's possible. It's very possible. Anything can happen. Teams of like the Patriots went out and got a bunch of fifth round pick linemen, offensive linemen, and they worked with that, right? So this offensive line can be salvageable. We have a lot of guys that I don't think will be here come June 1st. I think there's a lot of these guys that are going to be cut that are on the roster. I think it's going to be, it could be a bigger rebuild than we think, or it could be just another couple plug and plays, and I think that'll be a problem. I think we need to clean house, let the free agents go that we got, keep maybe 3 of them, and then I know there's a lot of guys in the building that aren't going to fit this scheme. They're not going to fit the defense, the physicality, the speed. They're not going to fit the offense, right? So we'll break down that. We'll break down all the people that I believe could be cut candidates coming up in the next couple of weeks. Once they get, the draft, once they get the combine done, they can start to get a little bit more into the film of last year and the guys we have in the building. I think a lot of these guys might have to walk the plank, but shout out to everybody in the building, man. We've been on for an hour. I just want to talk about some of these wide receivers. Since the combine will be tomorrow, not tomorrow, but interviews. We will have an interview with our very own John Spytek. So pull up to that. I don't know if we'll show it live, but very, very big possibility that we could. And I want to hear what he says, man. I want to hear what he says, right? What direction are we going? We all know that it's presumably the number 1 pick, Fernando Mendoza. So it really 2nd round, 3rd round, 3 4th rounds, 5th, the 6th, the 7th. Where do we go? What are we looking at? Is it defense? Is it offense? Are they happy with the offensive line? We will break that down tomorrow. Offensive line, I got my tackles. I will be working on guards tonight and tomorrow before we go live. So I got some tackles. I got some sleeper tackles that I think Raiders could get possibly later rounds that make, give DJ Glaze a little bit of competition. They just have better hand placement, a little bit more on target with their hands, right? They're not missing wide or missing high and getting ran over. Target placement with your hands as an offensive lineman is a major thing. And there's some guys that have some size. There's a couple in the 1st round that need to lose some size. Okay, just one. If you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, pull up tomorrow, man. We're gonna break down offensive line, who we have on the offensive line, who I think could get cut, walk the plank, and who I think we could bring in, right? Guys like Lindenbaum. There's a lot of talk about the Raiders could be, going that route. To me, I don't think so. I'll give it away now. I just don't think we spend that money. I think there's a lot more options. Arnie Garza in the building. It's like every time. Do you like all the coaches we hired? I like most of the coaches. I feel like they're all, we have a mixture of mid 30s or I guess upper 30s. And then, we have some 40 guys. We have some 50 guys. We don't have any 70 or 80-year-old guys in the building. I think that's a big difference. Who is your Raiders sleeper pick for the 2nd round? My Raiders sleeper pick for the 2nd round. If Omar Cooper Jr. falls out of the 1st round, the Raiders could possibly go that route. You're going to make me pull out all these notes. Um, Depending on how the tackles go, I could see a guy like Zion Young possibly being a name they look at. Um, Man, it just depends on how everything goes, right? If I think TJ Parker possibly is one of those guys that could be, you know, mid to late first. Zion Young could probably definitely be up in there as well. Um, so I don't know. It'd probably get to the lower guys. Like, do you go for an R. Mason Thomas? Do you go for um shit? I don't know. I don't know, man. It just depends on what way we go. Do we go offensive line? I'll tell you right now, my offensive lineman is Max Ian Max Ian Anchor or Anchor. I'm just gonna call him Anchor because the dude is an anchor. He's a boat anchor. You just put him on one side. You just let him do his thing. You don't worry about who's going up against him. I think he could probably take on two guys, one on each hand if he had to. I think this dude is going to develop into just a freak of nature. I think he already is a freak of nature. I know a lot of people have him somewhere in the 40s, mid second round. If I'm the Raiders and you take your quarterback first overall, depending on, what guys are left on the board, that's probably my pick. That's probably my pick. It's seems the safest pick is a guy that doesn't have a whole lot of spirit experience, hasn't played a lot of snaps, but he's just an absolute monster all the way around. I don't think you could go wrong with that. If they go receiver, you know, there's a lot of those guys. It just depends on how the draft falls. So it's hard to really say. It's hard to really say. You might sneak up and go. You might go linebacker. I mean, if a guy like Jacob Rodriguez is there and they think that's their guy, some people have him in the third, some people have him late third, some people even have the dude fall into the fourth round. I don't know. It just depends. The Raiders have been known to go get their guys. We've seen what they did last year when it came to the draft. They traded back. They knew who they wanted. They traded back. They went and got him, right? Caleb Rogers. They went and got Charles Grant. I think those are two solid, good picks for the future that are going to be guys for a long, long time. But, I mean, maybe a guy like Jake Golday is there. You know, maybe there's a run on linebackers and, Kyle Lewis or Anthony Hill is there. Um, Maybe they get lucky and a Caleb Banks out of Florida is there. If Caleb Banks out of Florida is there, I'm either going Ian Archer, or Archer, or Caleb Banks. I mean, if Lee Hunter's there, I would go that route. If they have a whole bunch of run on you know defensive tackles, and 10 of those guys are five or those six of those guys are already gone. You could look at guys like Grayson Holton. Um, I think Rishon Benny is going to surprise some people out of Michigan. I mean, there's so many ways we could go, man. There's so many ways we could go. I think Chris Brazel is going to be. Did I even give him? I think I had him eighth. I might have missed a spot. Um, yeah, there's just depends on how the draft falls, who's on their big board. I want to see who they bring in their top 30. I know a lot of those guys, like last year, they brought in guys from the top 30 and they didn't even pick but one guy out of the top 30, I think. Oh, two, I guess they had Charles Grant as well. So who is your top who is my top three ranked wide receivers in the draft? Did you were you not here? Were you not here? Um, my top three. My top three are the same as pretty much everybody's three. My top three is Carnell Tate, Makai Lemon, and it's a mix between Denzel Boston, KC Concepcion, Omar Cooper, and Jordan Tyson. I think, a lot of injuries for Jordan Tyson. So we'll see. We'll see what the combine is. We'll see what the news, what the rumors are, if these guys go out and run all their drills. But, you know, I think all these numbers are going to change. There's always somebody at the combine that comes out and just runs some crazy, crazy number and surprises everybody, right? If you can run crazy numbers, if you don't drop any passes at the combine that they're throwing to you, in their gauntlets and the straight lines in any of these drills, I think it makes a difference. So I don't know. We'll see, Arnie Garza. Who's your top three? Who's your top three? And I know I have to wait for a minute because there is a delay. And if I messed up and I didn't have, I might have jumped from 9 to 7. I don't know. I can't remember. But if I did, I think I got the Brazil. I think Chris Brazil out of Tennessee, man, I think is one of those guys. But again, there's so many receivers that I think are going to help teams. They might not be those second round guys. They might be third. A lot of them could be, fourth round. Deion Burks, Brandon Thompson, Ted Hurst. Some of these guys might drop a little bit. You got Tate, Lemon, and Surratt. Okay. Okay. Can I ask why you have Elijah Surratt over Omar Cooper Jr.? Because I like Surratt, and I thought I was crazy putting him in the top 10 because I'm looking at some of these lists and some of these guys, and I'm like, how do you not have him in there, right? How do you not have him in there? But again, when you look at the list of receivers that I ran off names, right? Skylar Bell, like I think that dude's going to be a problem. Zachariah Branch, I think, is not being talked about enough. So who else? I had some more. I had another somebody else I was talking about. Nope. My sleeper is Zachariah Branch from Georgia. Yeah, see, I like Zachariah Branch. There's not a lot of people talking about this man. All right. I think that about wraps it up. I think those are my notes. My notes. Yeah, so tomorrow we're gonna break down offensive line, man. Look for guys like Tristan Lay, Austin Barber, Isaiah World, Drew Bowery, Mark Bell. Some of these guys we're gonna break down. We're gonna talk a little bit about where they could go, how they could help a team. Could they be sneaky? And then somebody else that's creeping up on my list that a lot of people may have already moved to guard. And no, it's not Jennings Dunker. But I think he can play tackle. I really do. I think he's got the footwork. I think he's got the bottom half leg strength, to be an anchor. He's not not the most strongest, but I don't know. We'll break it down. So, man, shout out to everybody in the building. I appreciate you. Everybody that pulled up, everybody that showed love, everybody that commented. Thanks for all the super chats. I appreciate you. Appreciate the love and support. As always, protect yourself, protect your mind, protect your family, and just go to the combine, baby. No, but for real, Raiders. Peace. Appreciate you. Appreciate you.